All right, so welcome. My name is David Baer. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we will get our presentation up and running. Um, so we're doing AI today, and I figured, what the heck, we probably should generate an AI image of David Baer. So there he is in all his glory. I uploaded a few dozen photographs, and it generated some that looked a little bit like me and some which looked nothing like me at all. I chose to um, pick an image that improved upon the original. How about that? So here's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to hopefully help you understand the AI landscape a little bit better than you currently do. Um, I hope that I'll also help expand your appreciation for some of the things that are possible when it comes to AI. In addition, I'm going to walk you through some practical applications for artificial intelligence tools out there that you can use in your business. I'll do a little bit of show and tell. We'll jump into Chat GPT for a little bit, and I'll show you a few things. And then from there, I want to answer your questions. So this is me. My name is David Baer. I've been in the marketing space since the mid 90s, first in the classical music and theater world, then in the wine industry, which is what brought me here to Oregon from New York City, where I'm from originally. And these days, I work with and mentor folks who are running marketing services businesses, such as marketing agencies. And I've been playing around with artificial intelligence, particularly in the copywriting space, since the very end of 2019, beginning of 2020. So I got a chance before we started the presentation to get to hear from a few of you about what you're hoping to get out of this. But I'm curious to just hear a little bit about, for those of you who are already using artificial intelligence tools in one way or another, um, what you're currently doing. And if you're not yet in that space, that's okay as well. So anybody want to sort of share the type of stuff? I know, Tanya, before we got started, you said that you're doing a little bit of copywriting work in your business.
Yeah, so I've used Chat GPT, and I think with AI chatbot, I think is
Okay.
the other one,
Mhm.
and looking for alternative suggestions for certain wording and for my website or print material or graphics. And then also for social media post to help get my wording concise and to the
Yeah.
point, and throw in some easy hashtags and little graphics in there. And I think I've used it too for some of my credibility statement, my code statements of trying to just really tighten things up in my messaging and getting
Mhm.
the right wording, and something that I can reproduce easily.
Excellent. Those are all, I think, perfect applications for this technology. Stephen, I know that you've been doing a bunch with it because you've shared some of
Yes.
the things that you've been working on. What is the sort of latest and greatest in your world in terms of interaction with these tools?
Sure. So in authoring books, I've used it for research. I've used it to, similar to what she just said, I've used it to refine. I took a manuscript that was 53,000 words and it whittled it down to 49,800
Mhm.
on its own, and it was much more succinct. I only had to make about 15 changes to what was produced. So I was pretty impressed by that. I've also generated um, original art and images for PowerPoint slides,
Oh, excellent. Cool.
webinar. And then probably the other iteration is taking content and saying, okay, turn this into so taking my original, this is the key distinction, taking my original content and saying, okay, now turn this into an 8-week training course.
Oh, I love that.
Simply to see how it organizes it and what it would do with it. And
Yep.
what's interesting, I did one last night, and what's interesting is because I'm preloading my content, of course, a lot of it was just yes, 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 it's my stuff, and so that's fine. But what was interesting, two nuances. One was the order of two topics, and it made more sense to have it flipped, which was interesting. And then the other was there were two wholly new ideas dropped into it that were perfect. And I happen to be an expert in that topic. So I was able to make a, reasonable judgment about whether it was just fluff or if it was real.
Yeah, it
and
was
I was
valid to include. Yeah.
And I was rather impressed by how valid, but also how I had completely missed it and just not thought about it. So I see it as a memory jogger too, in that regard.
Yeah, I think that's a great application as well. Anybody else doing anything aside from the sort of content creation stuff that we've heard about, or content manipulation? And anybody using it for ideation, like Stephen was just talking about, or any other kinds of tasks? If not, I'm going to give you an example or two of how we're doing that. Ron.
David, I'm in legal services and I pay a lot of money to have attorneys review contracts and documents. I have AI review them before I have the final look over, and it's a lot faster. And frankly, the attorneys are impressed with the work that comes out too. I'd never used a document just from AI, but it's a good way to speed up the process. Outside of that, I'm kind of like the primitive native looking at artificial light for the first time. Every time I do something, it's like, wow, this is incredible. Yeah. I've asked it to put together presentations for certain employer groups, and it dials right in. How to challenge city council on the new rain tax that they're trying to put upon us. And it's incredible what it does. So I'm the primitive native. I'll be looking at your bright light, and thank you for having this on today.
Oh, indeed. And I got to say, we're all primitive natives in this world. Most of us are just getting up and running with this, and some of us are spending time paying a little bit closer attention than others. But I'm right there with you, learning every day. So Eric, I'll let you wrap it up in terms of what you guys are working on with AI, and then I'm going to continue with the rest of the presentation.
Yeah, so marketing strategy, specifically being able to answer questions, have case studies available on demand right within your chat widget on your homepage. And then, of course, just trying to keep up with all the latest and greatest technology that's being released, it seems like almost on a daily basis.
Yeah, and you're correct when you say on a daily basis. I'm going to address that in just a moment. I want to talk a little bit about sort of what I think many small businesses and large businesses are dealing with at this point in time, which is there's a lot of rapid change going on, obviously. And I think this was a big topic of conversation, and continues to be in some circles. Is this taking away jobs? And I want to say that you can look at it that way. You can also look at it from a very different perspective, which is that it's going to up-level a lot of the capabilities of many of the roles that we're in. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit more detail in just a moment. But I think for businesses that are looking at the technology, we've seen this many times before with advances in technology in other areas, particularly when we started moving from offline to online, where there's a lot of adoption consideration that I think businesses are sort of making their way through the process of figuring out the best way to tackle this. And obviously the ones that are at the forefront of this change and welcoming it into their businesses are going to be a little bit ahead of the curve when it comes to the types of talent that they're going to attract, et cetera. I'm going to zoom in on this in just a moment. So this is for those of you who are leaning in, this is a study that was conducted or funded by LinkedIn about the future of work as it relates to AI. And you can see the stat that I pulled out: 47% of US executives believe that using generative AI, which is the type of artificial intelligence that we've been sort of referring to, will increase productivity in their businesses. Of course, there are certain types of roles where this makes a lot of sense, and places where it's not as practical. And I want to zoom in a little bit on this particular image here and show you a few different places where, like, if you're talking about teachers or software engineers, where there's a lot of information based in the work that they're doing, you're going to see that there's a high percentage of the work that they are doing that can be enhanced by or done by artificial intelligence. Whereas sort of the practical hands-on jobs like nursing or driving or a caregiver, that's stuff that's not going to easily be replaced by AI or even enhanced by AI. And so I think you have to sort of think about the different roles that exist in the world out there. This is an interesting study that just got released a week ago. It's in the Harvard Business Review, and it was a study done by Boston Consulting Group, where they looked at 758 consultants. And there's two takeaways that I'm sharing here from this study. The first is that consultants who were using AI tended to finish more of the tasks that they were doing at a greater rate and a higher quality, and a significantly higher quality in some respects. Here you can see 40% higher quality. I'm not going to get into the detail of how they were judging quality, but the report is pretty enlightening in terms of what AI was allowing consultants to be able to do. And Stephen, if you haven't seen this study, this is obviously in your lane, something you should be aware of. But here's, I think, the more interesting and more telling piece. Consultants who scored the worst when they were assessed at the start of the experiment, they actually were the ones that had the biggest gain. You see this 43% gain here. And even those who were highly skilled in the top half of the group that they were assessing, they still had a gain when it came to use of artificial intelligence. It was only 17%, but that's still a reasonably significant boost. So there is a lot of opportunity for somebody to dramatically up-level their skill simply by knowing how to use these tools effectively in the work that they're doing is really the point that I want to make here. Ultimately, I think we can sum it up as generative AI can help us do things better, faster, and cheaper is kind of a quick way to think about it. And the way that I like to talk about it is that if you think of artificial intelligence tools as your intern, right, that you relate to them in that way, that you speak to them and educate them in that way to help them help you more effectively, that's going to be a really helpful way to understand the best ways to communicate. And so it takes you from being the doer in many situations to being maybe the project manager in a lot of situations. And so what I'd like to suggest is that as you're approaching artificial intelligence, that you think about, right, what am I already dealing with in my business? And we heard a couple of good examples a few minutes ago from those of you who were talking about how you're using it. What are the things you're already trying to tackle in your business, and how can AI help support that? I'll give you just a few examples of areas where this could be helpful. Obviously, we talked a lot about marketing content or messaging content a few minutes ago, or book creation or an adaptation of a book into a course, right? But operations within a business, Ron mentioned things like legal review, R&D. Productivity is a huge piece of the puzzle here, and internal communications with clients, and the list goes on, right? So how do you really approach this? Well, I would say if you go back to the point that I made earlier, what are the things that you're dealing with in your business and how can AI help? Think about the current activities that you're currently trying to accomplish something, maybe something that's taking too much time, and how to create more time in your day. Things that you've been wanting to do but haven't yet gotten to because it's just not been either a priority, or you haven't created the opportunity to get it done. Maybe you didn't have the extra help on your team to do it. Well, now you do, if you think about this intern that we have, right? But what I would say is you really want to avoid doing what I think so many of us tend to do when new cool toys come out, which is look at the toy and say, I love this toy, and then try to figure out what you can do with it. I'm one who sort of falls into that bad habit quite a bit. And I can tell you from personal experience, it's not productive, and it can get a little expensive too. So with regard to the toys that are out there, I just want to give you a little bit of perspective about how many toys we have when it comes to this artificial intelligence space. So I think some of you have seen this image that I've shared in the past. Every year for the past 11 years, Chief Martech releases this image. And this is an image of all of the various marketing technology tools that are out there on the market right now. This is the 2023 version of the image that they released back in May. And I want to give you a little bit of historical context for this. On that image, there are 11,038 different pieces of software represented that can be used in marketing technology. So think everything from, MailChimp to HubSpot to whatever social media scheduling tool you may have. There's a lot more, obviously. Back in 2011, there were only 150 that they cataloged. So now we're up to 11,000. Now I want to give you this number because since this this image was released in May, we've had a lot of continuous development in artificial intelligence tools. These are just 5 of the many, many sites that track all of the new cool toys and tools that exist out there in artificial intelligence. The one that I'll mention here is there's an AI for that. That's this one right here. They list, and you can't see it, it's too small here, but when I took the screenshot, it was over 7,000 artificial intelligence tools that they had cataloged. Most of them, which had come out after that May image was released. So there's thousands of these tools, many of which are just built right on top of the technologies that we're familiar with, like ChatGPT or the technology behind that, or Anthropic's Claude technology as well. But there's also a lot of the tools that we already use every single day. Anybody recognize this one? Feel free to shout it out if you know what this is. No? Okay. This is Google Docs, and they've built artificial intelligence to their entire suite, and so has one of their chief competitors, a little company called Microsoft, has built artificial intelligence into their tools as well. And this is starting to become available to enterprise users of these tools. I've, in fact, just played around with some of the stuff in the Google Labs of the AI tools that are built into a lot of the Google Workspace devices that we have, or elements that we have. This has also been what's fueling a lot of the back end of the advertising platforms that we use. But if you're a user of Canva, it's built right in there as well. Stephen, I think, mentioned something about images earlier, right? I doctored up this little image by asking for an image of a cute puppy drinking a smoothie, and it gave me the image, right? This is one of the many image tools that are out there. It's a platform called Midjourney, and this is probably the most popular and currently considered the best quality image generator out there. And it's getting better and better and easier to use these tools every single day. In fact, yeah, we can talk a little bit about that, the legality issue as well, Ron, in a little bit. But here's another implication, right? So there's of course all of the safety and legal and who owns the rights to what and all of that stuff. But there's also this question of how this affects a lot of the things that we're already used to. Anybody know what this is? Hopefully you recognize that it's a Google results. And I don't know how many of you have artificial intelligence turned on in your Google results, but this is now the default result display for Google users, which means that if a business is trying to get found on Google, suddenly this shows up at the top. Your results with Google search is showing up much, much further down that page. So search engine optimization is being directly affected by a lot of this technology as well. So how do we approach this? Well, I like to think about where is all this going, and then how do we start behaving and acting in order to be where we need to be as this continues to progress and advance into the future. And this is a great Wayne Gretzky quote about how he likes to think about where the puck is going and be there rather than be where the puck is. I guess this is back, of course, when he was playing whatever that sport is that he played. I'm not a sports guy. So a few of the tools that I've spent a good amount of time with, probably the very first tool that I got really, really deeply into was Jasper, which we'll look at very briefly. ChatGPT, which launched just under a year ago now. Bard, which came out earlier this year, and Claude, which has come out even more recently, are kind of some of the big names in this space. But there are even bigger names which are about to probably take over a lot of what we know as ChatGPT being the kind of big name in the space at the moment. Google has a project called Gemini, which we're expecting to see in December, which everybody is saying is the ChatGPT killer. And then Meta, the owners of Facebook, they have another ChatGPT killer in the works. And then there's Elon Musk with his X.AI, and Apple is secretly working on a not so secret project called Ajax. So I think the landscape of all of the things that we're seeing right now is going to look quite different a year from now, and 5 years from now, even more different. So how I approach this is I really try to think about what is it that I'm trying to accomplish, right? Going back to that question of what are the problems that I'm trying to address, and then attack that way by figuring out, all right, if I know where I'm going, I know what tool I need, and then I know sort of how to proceed with it. One of the easier approaches to this are tools like Jasper, and there are many, many tools which are structured this way, which simply say, pick the formula that you're looking for. Tell us what you want. Do you want to build a social media post? Great. Tell us how you'd like it to be structured, and then just go and fill out a form, and we'll do all the hard work for you. So there's no prompting involved the way there is with something like ChatGPT. We don't have to say, write it out in this tone of voice or anything like that. We just fill in 3 different fields here. What's the name of my business? Tell me a little bit about the thing that I'm trying to write about. And then what's the tone, happy, sad, enthusiastic, and it'll then produce stuff. Now, that's great. It also is limited in terms of our flexibility with what we're able to do with it, which is why a lot of the tools that we're hearing more and more about, I think, give us greater flexibility, but there's a greater learning curve and more frustration when you can't get it to do the thing you want it to do. So how many of you have used Google's Bard? Is this a platform that anybody has spent any time with? Okay, so Bard, I think, has continued to develop and get better and better, but it's still not doing quite what ChatGPT is capable of in many areas. But it is owned by and connected to Google's other properties, including search. So we can actually utilize it for a lot more helpful real-time data. It also is kind of clever. And so one of the things that I was able to do is upload this picture of a chicken sandwich. And I said to it, I'd like you to describe this picture using visceral emotional language. And it sort of gave an initial description of it, telling me what the picture was. And then in the second paragraph, it says, this image is making my mouth water. I can almost taste the juicy, flavorful chicken, the crispy breading, the tart pickles, and the tangy mustard. And it continues to go on following the instruction that I've given it around just the tone of voice that I want it to take. Well, that's kind of cool. It's not very useful for us, particularly in business, but you can sort of see that there's opportunity to play around with the way that you get results. Just this week, this is to sort of speak to the real-time, constantly changing comment that somebody made a few minutes ago. I think it's actually yesterday or the day before, Google announced that now many of their other properties are now built into Bard and available to us as extensions. So I played around with it, and to Ron's point a few minutes ago about legal stuff, when you were talking about using ChatGPT to review legal documents, well, I put a legal document into my Google Drive, and I asked it to please review the document, and particularly note anything that I needed to be aware of that might impact me financially. And then it went through the document and it pulled out different things that said, hey, you might want to pay attention to this. Could be kind of useful to be able to do that. And many of these tools have the capability to go through a document and highlight stuff or interact with the document as well in various ways. So not something that's exclusive to Google Bard, but something that you can think about. How could I be able to use this if I'm suddenly handed a 128-page document that I need to get through in the next few hours before I go into a meeting? Well, it could be kind of helpful to maybe get it summarized, maybe get it broken down into bullet point form or something else. That's a great utility here. Bing Chat is another platform that is built on a lot of the technology behind ChatGPT, OpenAI's GPT-4, their more advanced model. And they also are built on top of OpenAI's image generator, which is called DALL-E. DALL-E 3 has just been announced to be released, and it's allegedly, according to OpenAI, who's a little biased because they created it, is now the most advanced image creator. But I just went into Bing Chat, and I can use this the same way I use ChatGPT, interacting with documents, uploading things, and also asking it to generate stuff. And so in this case, I asked it to create an image of a flying car that had an old-fashioned look and had wings on it, and it gave me that result, right? I come up with silly examples because, heck, it's a lot more fun. But as I said, just yesterday, OpenAI announced that DALL-E is now going to be built into ChatGPT, which will be released in the coming weeks in a similar format than what I just showed you there in Bing Chat. So we can start asking ChatGPT to generate images through this platform as well. Another big player in the space is Anthropic, and their platform Claude 2 is also freely available, and then you can upgrade for the same $20 a month that you can with ChatGPT. And it has one of the benefits of this particular platform is you can upload and interact with much, much larger documents. It has what's called a context window that is much greater than any of the other platforms out there at the moment. So here's a little experiment I was doing. My business partner did a presentation recently on business positioning. And I said, okay, I actually wrote the presentation for him. I put the slides together for him. And then I wanted to take those slides and turn them into, as Stephen gave us an example of something similar earlier, take those slides and turn them into an article. So I had the slides uploaded and I asked it basically, could you please use this as the basis for writing an article for me? And so it generated that as well. All right, this is the one that I think everybody is most familiar with. And so I'm going to spend a little bit of time digging into some practical examples and do some show and tell here. This is, of course, ChatGPT. And I want to start off by talking a little bit about prompt quality and the detail of output that you get when you're interacting with this. So I'm going to give you 3 different versions of the same request, but each time I show you the request, it's going to get a little bit more sophisticated in terms of what I'm asking it to do. So I'm going to jump over to ChatGPT here, and let's go ahead and close that. And I'm just going to drop in this request. List, you guys can all see the ChatGPT? Just somebody nod? Yeah, great. List 5 ideas for a special promotion for my flower shop. Fairly straightforward question. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put that request in. Okay, it's giving me a good basic answer. A flower subscription service, that sounds kind of interesting. Okay, great. There's a little bit more detail explaining what it might entail, what's involved in putting that together. But it's not terribly helpful because this is all kind of obvious, predictable stuff. And part of the reason why I'm getting this output as opposed to probably some more helpful and less obvious output is simply because the nature of the way the question was posed to it was very, very limited, very simple. So I'm going to show you now just a second, slightly more detailed, but still, I would say reasonably simple request. So here I'm saying, I want you to act as an expert local business at local business marketing, right? So I'm now telling it you have certain expertise in a certain narrower area, right? That was maybe implied previously, but now I'm saying, no, you actually are an expert at local marketing. Then I'm asking it to give me special non-holiday time promotion ideas. And then finally, I'm giving it a location. And I hope it gives me the same type of output that it has in the past, because it really does pay attention to the location. And for those of you who are here in this area, I think you'll probably see some familiar themes as this works through it. So the first one is Portland Blooms photography contest. Much more imaginative than what we saw before, which were pretty typical things. Local artist collaboration, a green thumb workshop. I'm eager to see. It's not doing what I have gotten in the past few trials of this, which I'm really disappointed about. It doesn't have anything related to breweries or the wine industry or some of the other things that are super obviously Portland-esque. But it did come up with a few sort of more interesting things than I got the first time around. So, a workshop and a loyalty program is much less imaginative than collaborating with local artists or having a green thumb workshop or, focusing on the area residents. But I want to go just a little bit deeper, and I'm going to give you a really detailed request here. And this request is a long one, so I'm not going to read through the whole thing, but I'll generally tell you that I'm telling it that it's a seasoned marketing strategist with lots of experience. It specializes in unconventional and lesser known strategies. And then I'm going to ask it to give me a lot more detailed output with things like suggesting potential partnerships and thinking about what metrics I could use to judge whether the thing that we did was a success. So I'm asking it for a lot more here. And so the results that I'm expecting to get, hopefully, are going to be even more detailed. We'll see. I was disappointed in that last one, but okay, there we go. Portland PDX Pedals project. So we're big bikers here, and that's sort of trading on the knowledge of the area. And then it's saying, here we go. The rationale is Portlanders are eco-conscious and love hands-on projects. This approach promotes green spaces and biodiversity. And then it gives me metrics that I can track that against. But it's only giving me that because I thought enough to ask for it. And I think that's the important key. So it's there we go, bloom and brew. So I'm glad that it finally showed some more awareness, deeper awareness of our region. But are you guys starting to see sort of the difference in the quality and detail of output depending on the types of things that you're asking and how you're asking? I see a nod or two there. So hopefully that's making sense. Now I'm going to do one more thing here, because this is a conversation. This is a chat. I'm going to actually follow this last question that I asked to detail all of this with one more request. Based on the above 5 options, rate each on a scale of 1 to 10 for effectiveness in short-term and long-term benefit for my business. That might be kind of useful. Like if I'm looking at a list of things and go, now which one am I going to choose? Well, I'm giving it certain criteria by which to help me decide, is this going to be useful and how is it going to impact me most immediately? or in the longer term, and then explain why, right? And so that's the type of output that I'm getting. Any questions, comments about what we're looking at right now before I move on to our next show and tell? You get okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna continue on with another example here. So let's go ahead and see what that is. It's business idea analysis. So that's the next thing we're gonna jump into. Give me just a moment to pull that prompt up, and we'll jump back over to ChatGPT. And it's still working on this, but I'm gonna go ahead and stop that, and we'll start a new chat. And I'm gonna drop this prompt in. Now, the prompt is not really as important as you understanding what we're getting out of the tool. And so we can certainly go back and look at the prompt in a little bit more detail later. But basically what I'm saying I want it to do is to give me structured feedback on an idea that I have for my business. So is anybody currently working on an idea for their business that they want to have a little bit of a reaction or feedback from? Eric, I know that we just talked about one that you had about bringing on an active sales team.
I have one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Stephen.
Oh, I was just going to say, launching a collective, a community, a mastermind community called Collective Genius, and it would be for change management consultants.
Okay. Even if I got a misspelling, I've just wrote launching a collective or community for change management consultants. I'm just going to leave it at that, even though I didn't quite capture all the detail, because you can sort of see I asked it to go through what we call the 4 P's of marketing, and there's lots of other P's, but the 4 P's that I told it to look at were product, price, place, and promotion, right? So I could have given it detail about the fact that it's likely virtual, right? Or it's likely not going to be in the Philadelphia area where you are.
Right.
And then to do a SWOT analysis of each of those 4 P's. So I just gave it a little bit of structured instruction about how I would like it to look at the idea, so that I could get the type of output that you were mentioning earlier, Stephen, of it coming up with ideas or suggesting or thinking about things that I might not have instinctively thought about in the first place. Okay, so that's the way that I sort of think through how do I structure requests. Is I want it to surprise me with something new that I hadn't thought about, so I have the opportunity to dig deeper in certain directions. Again, happy to go in a little bit more detail of this in our Q&A section, but I want to give you just one more example. And that one is I'm going to work on objection handling and how I work through that process. And I'm going to just drop in a brand new, hopefully brand new chat. We'll see. Okay, we're going to jump into a brand new chat here. Yvonne, thanks for joining us. Good to have you here. And if you have any further questions, feel free to follow up with me. All right, we're going to jump in and talk about objection handling in sales. All right, so this is a fairly long, what I call a protocol rather than a prompt, because it's got so many details of instruction. And I'm going to walk you through a little bit of what I'm asking it to do, and then we'll just go through and interact with it. Here, I'm telling it basically, here are the rules that I'm setting up for you to interact with me. I'm going to give you a profile of an individual who's in a certain situation, and I want you to tell me what their objections are in this buying situation. I then want your help coming up with responses for those objections. And then I might want, because I don't like the way that you've written those responses, to adjust the tone. So that's basically what I've asked it to do. So in this case, let's do the profile. So the way that I've instructed it is I use the word profile in all caps, and I'm going to say 80-year-old woman buying a Vespa. Okay. I imagine she may have some objections to that purchase, even though she's in the process of considering it. And so here are some of the concerns that she may have: safety concerns, worry about accidents or injuries, her physical ability. That's actually a really good one for us to see what happens in terms of the potential response for something like that. I mean, I again picked kind of an outlandish example because I think it's quite instructive in the way that this tool can be used, even on simpler and more common examples, right? So let's do this one. Let's do response. And this was the instruction. I gave it up at the top: response and then physical ability. That's all I'm telling it, because I've told it up above what that means when I gave it the instructions originally. So now it's going to give me 3 different responses. The first one about ease of use, the second one about there's customization. I don't know what the third one is, but the last piece of this is that I may want to have it change the tone. So I believe the word that I gave it up above to change the tone was adjust. And I'm going to I'm gonna just say very aggressive and trying to close the sale on number 4. Okay, so the training and assistance. And I misspelled aggressive, but it even knows what I'm talking about. I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger so you guys can see. You can see there's personality built into this simply by the way that I've told it to respond. Right? Look, we've had countless customers, some even older than you, who've mastered the Vespa in no time after our training. It's not rocket science. I mean, that's probably not how I would respond, but I wanted to give you a demonstration of how this could possibly be used. So that was 3 quick demonstrations of ways that you could use it. Some of them probably a little bit handier than others in terms of direct application in your business. But ultimately, what this boils down to is looking at this in terms of what business problems or challenges are you currently dealing with, and how can AI help you? I have a few other examples, but I think given the time, I'd like to be able to open this up to those of you who are here to ask whatever follow-up questions you have about some of the things I've shared. And if there's further stuff that we want to dig into demonstration-wise, I'm happy to do that. So Ron, you had dropped a couple of questions in the chat, and I will simply say that I'm also not a lawyer, and so I'm not in the position of defending the organizations who have developed these technologies. But one of the big fears that I hear regularly from businesses is around their or our exposure to lots of the lawsuits that are coming from, like, the writers who are suing OpenAI, and am I liable if I use this tool? And ultimately, the laws on that have not been written. The decisions on those cases have not been made. But so there is the question of the at your own risk. I can't see how, any of those lawsuits are going to find us individual users liable. That said, a lot of these platforms do have very detailed documentation about in their terms of use about who owns and who is responsible for the final output and use of it. And therefore, it's important to understand what your potential liability may be.
And before I have Chat GPT look at all those contracts, can you give me a summary, David, of if I have it design an image, is that my image or is it theirs? Can I use it without copyright or trademark?
Yeah, different platforms have different rules. There are 3 the 3 major technologies behind this. One is Midjourney. It is yours if you are using Midjourney. OpenAI's DALL-E, which says it's yours as well. And then the third company is called Stable Diffusion, or Stability.ai, and their platform Stable Diffusion also says it's yours if you have generated it. That said, there are derivatives of those, as well as tools that are built on top of that technology, which have more ambiguous rules about who the output belongs to. So you need to, at the very least, be aware of that the terminology in the terms of service.
Thank you. You know, for them to get me or get anyone for copyright infringement of an image, all they have to do is show that they created the image, that I used it, and that's enough for huge penalties. So I am really knee-jerky about using images out there unless I go Creative Commons. And I see this as a great potential for the imagery that I need for marketing. I just have to be safe. So I appreciate your comments.
Yep, indeed. Who else has questions or comments they'd like to share? Were there new ideas, new concepts for any of you here in terms of some of the stuff that I demonstrated?
Yes, absolutely. And one example was, I never even thought about running objections. What would be this avatar's objections and then objection handling? I never thought about that. That was brilliant.
Yeah, we're you know, I'm one of the ways that I came up with that is that I looked at all of the different activities that we have in the sales process and revenue generation.
Yep.
And then I started building out protocols, kind of like the one that I shared with you about objection handling, to either teach or help inform what might happen in each of those particular, you know, sections of the
Sure.
interaction. And so, you know, everything from doing cold outreach to how do I respond to an inquiry to, you know, anything else that you may encounter in your business activities, you could replicate in a similar form as the one that I did just with the objection handling.
So without necessarily using the AI, can you take me through what your logic is? So you take something simple like, what's the number one problem business consultants have that keeps them up at night, right? How do you take something that conversationally people know what that means? How do you drill that down in AI? Is it iterative?
Yeah, I would start by again looking at what am I trying to get out of it. So I mean, you're the way that I heard the question is at the beginning of the process, not the end of the process. So I want to know, what am I trying to create at the end? You and I did this a few months ago, I think, with this audience, where we were thinking about how do we identify language that they're using to be able to use in sales copy or in, you know, in some promotional material. And so if I know that that's the place where I want to end up, well, then that helps inform what I'm going to be asking at the front end in terms of, you know, what's a list of the things, you know, of the 15 or 20 things that they're constantly worried about. And then I would ask it step 2, after it generates that list, maybe to phrase that list from a first person perspective of the consultant, you know, saying that. And maybe I would ask it to adjust the tone to be more or less worried in the way that it's presenting it. And then I have the output that I'm after because I knew where I ultimately wanted to get to.
That's very helpful. Yep.
Yeah, thanks. Who else has something?
I got something.
Yes, you always do. I can rely on you, Fu. So thank you.
Hey, I have to actually bite my tongue to not
Go ahead.
talk too much. Anyway, the point is, I have not played with graphics. And then, you know, when I saw you use the Dolly and stuff, like I thought about Me Journey, and I just looked complicated. I tried a little bit. So I want to be able to, for example, I have a post already that I written, and I just want to put a funny graphic or something to get the attention of people. What do you think is I know you said something about Bing, and now that ChatGPT is gonna do it. Like, what's your suggestion on the easiest for me, because Midjourney seems not to be the easiest, you know?
Yeah, Midjourney is challenging at the moment because it's built inside of Discord, and Discord for old guys like me, it feels foreign, and I don't like navigating it. You're young, you could handle it, but I use for all of the image generation that I do, I use a platform called Clip Drop, and I'll actually show you what I do there, because it's built on Stability AI's technology. Let me just, I have lost my my share screen item. Here we go. Okay. So this is Clip Drop, and it can be used for free when you it's available on both desktop and on mobile. When I subscribed to it, the mobile price was like half the price of the desktop price. So at least for the Apple mobile price, but you can use the account on both platforms. So here's what it does. It does all of these different things. I, on a regular basis, some of you may know that I have a Substack. Let me just show it to you, called I went from the wrong direction, but this is what I meant to show you. It's called Ideas Plus AI, and every day you can see I generate an image. Oops, that's not, I'm clicking all the wrong things here. There we go. Generate an image, and I have a very specific style that I'm after and color scheme that I'm after. And I can do that very easily in Clip Drop, simply because I've come up with and I'll enlarge this so you can see it. Maybe, there we go. A very simple prompt, and prompting in images is going to start getting even easier than what I'm showing you here. But I know that this image, this hex number, is my brand color, right? So I tell it I want it in this orange with some black and gray, caricature style, and then these X's I just replace with whatever it is I want the image to be. And usually it's something as simple as woman at laptop. Okay. And then I'll hit generate, and let me make it a little smaller so you can see it again. And I'm getting the output that I'm after. So don't overthink it. Now, I don't always get the quality of output that I'm after the first time, so I might run, 3 more. But Eric, you're seeing this with the posts that I'm putting in Alignable right now. I've used this a couple of times in your group. Fu, I think you've seen this as well from some of the stuff I've done. It's super simple.
LinkedIn, yeah, especially
Very
LinkedIn.
cool.
Yeah. So what other questions do we have? We have just about 3 more minutes before we officially hit the end of our call.
David, I'm intrigued by the image AI, and I haven't done anything with it. My chat GPT is text-based only. What program, is there a free program that I could play around with that is image AI?
The one that I just shared with you, Clip Drop, you can use for free. There's a watermark on it, but you can play around with it as much as you'd like.
Okay.
If you go into Bing Chat, what I showed you there will be available for free as well. So you just need to use that. I think you still need to use it in the Edge browser only, which is Microsoft's browser. And aside from that, there's plenty of others, but those 2 I think should cover you. And with DALL-E's version 3 that they just announced this week and should be available probably in Bing Chat in the next few weeks, I think the ease of prompting is going to be even easier than what I just showed you in the example that I just gave.
Great. Thank you.
Shansi, did you have a question? I saw you unmuted.
I don't. This was
Okay.
really interesting, though. I appreciate all the information, and I'm going to be playing around.
Excellent. Well, for those of you who haven't gotten a chance to dig a little bit deeper into my world, you can grab a copy of my Decoding AI for Small Business book here at aicoterie.com/ebook, or by scanning the QR code on your screen. And if you have questions or like to chat further about the stuff that you're trying to address in your business and see if there's some way that I can help support you, I'm more than happy to have that conversation as well. You can find out a lot more about the work that I'm doing on the AI front, my enthusiastic side business from the work that I'm doing in marketing strategy, by heading over to aicoterie.com, which you can see on your screen here as well. And in the meantime, I appreciate you all showing up and spending a little bit of time and listening to me drone on, and hopefully enthusiastically, about AI, and hope you guys learned something today. So thanks all for coming, and I'll stick around if any of you have questions, but I think that is officially the end of our time together. So thanks.
David, you're the best. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you,
for-
David.
Thanks